Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship on finally a snowy Sunday. It's so beautiful to see the snow out there, bringing some moisture to this arid land we're living in right now. I'm Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry. I'm the minister of this congregation, and I'm joined today by Service Associate Ilya Kowalchuk, Tad Koryath, Emily Jaworski Koryath, as well as some special guest puppets providing music, and our tech ushers, Bill Beachley and Don Price, who help everything run so smoothly, and I'm so grateful for them. The most important people, of course, to mention are you, the faithful who arrive on Zoom every Sunday. You are the reason we do any of it. As I say the welcome words today, I invite you to shift into gallery mode if you haven't already done so, and just scroll through the screens so you can experience the lovely diversity of this congregation. Because without it and without you, there would be no us, and there would be a lot less joy and justice in this world. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways that you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living and all the places you are from, you are welcome here. Christian, pagan, humanist, Jew, Buddhist, mystic, Muslim, Unitarian, Universalist, and with all the traditions, even those you cannot name, that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here. And no matter how long you are away, nor how soon until you return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or with tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. I do have a few announcements for this morning. I'll be holding my chat with the minister in a breakout room following the service today. It's designed for newcomers to get to know me a little bit better and to get to know the fellowship a little bit better. Ilya will be in a breakout room for anyone who wants to discuss this service further, so our post-service discussion. At 4 p.m. today, there will be a fundraising concert for Ingrid La Torre Encalada, the woman living in sanctuary at the UU Church of Boulder with her 3 children. Ingrid and her supporters have gathered some amazing musicians, including Marcos Ospina, who grew up in this congregation. Here's a link to the chat to register for this event. This is to help Ingrid with just groceries and getting through the month of December. So I hope you can make it, and if not, you can find another way to support Ingrid. Now, Christmas Eve will be here before we know it, and we will have 2 fabulous services to offer this year, both of them on Zoom and both of them in collaboration with other UU congregations. At 4 p.m., we'll be collaborating with the UU Church of Boulder and the Longmont UU Presence to bring a Zoom version of our traditional no rehearsal Christmas pageant. Yes, we are figuring out how to do it on Zoom. So you will have an opportunity to dress up like an angel, a shepherd, or even a donkey this year. See Connections Weekly for more information. And at 7 p.m., we will have our more civilized, our more traditional service, along with 10 UU congregations along the Front Range and into Utah. So that'll be that's an incredibly exciting collaboration that we've put together, and the music's going to be absolutely fabulous. Now, for that 7 p.m. service, if you want to be part of the closing Silent Night slideshow, please send a photo of yourself or your family or your family holding a candle to the video production manager at First Universalist. Her name is Helen Gray, and we need that no later than Tuesday, December 15th, so it's 2 days from now. Helen's email address will be added to the chat, so please indicate in your email that you're from BVUUF and just send her a picture of you holding a candle. It will be one of dozens submitted from families across the UU Front Range. Both of these services, we hope, will be beautiful opportunities to bring the Nativity story to life and to anchor this Christmas Eve in the Christian story. Keep an eye out for the links to these services in your email and Connections and in Connections Weekly and the Fellowship homepage. Now, if you're new here, we are really glad you found us and hope that in this virtual community, you can experience the warmth and the love of this congregation. Each Sunday is different here, so please come back a few times to really get to know us. If you want to get better connected, you can look in the chat window now for the link to our first-time visitors page, or email our office manager, Carol. Her email address will be in the chat window as well. And be sure to check out the fellowship calendar and the Connections Weekly for all the opportunities to stay connected. Finally, if there are any newer folks here who would like to introduce yourself in the chat, please do, because we just love to know who is among us. And all are invited to stay for virtual coffee hour after the service or join in the post-service discussion or the newcomer chat with the minister. If you have a chalice at home, you can light it with me as I light our fellowship chalice. And so that we know where all our chalices are, it is our tradition to write in the chat, chalice lit in, and the name of your town. Please say the words along with me as I light our chalice. I light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I'll sing our bowl again, and let it be an invitation to draw you deeper into the present moment and into this beloved community. And following the bowl, we'll share about 2 minutes of silence together.
Breathe, said the wind.
How can I breathe at a time like this, when the air is full of the smoke of burning tires, burning lives?
Just breathe, the wind insisted.
Easy for you to say, if the weight of injustice is not wrapped around your throat, cutting off all air.
I need you to breathe. I need you to breathe.
Don't tell me to be calm when there are so many reasons to be angry, so much despair.
I didn't say to be calm, said the wind. I said to breathe. We're going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together.
And now, breathing, recognizing how much we need the spaciousness of breath and of each other to weather these challenging times. I invite us into our time of community connection, our time of sacred sharing. If you have a joy or a concern you'd like to share, please raise your hand using the button in the participants window. And Don will unmute you, or you may see a pop-up screen asking you to unmute yourself. If you prefer, you can share your joy or concern in the chat window by sending a chat to everyone, and then Don will read aloud what you send. When you do that, whether by voice or by chat, please tell us your name, the pronouns you use, and where you live, and briefly let us know what is in your heart today. And then I will put a stone in our sacred waters on your behalf. Beloveds, we gather with the December holidays encircling us. Tonight, the third candle of Hanukkah will be lit. Solstice is but a week away, with Christmas hot on its tail. We gather knowing how different these holidays will be this year, and how much loss, both personal in the rituals and gatherings that will be missed, personal in the people we have lost to this pandemic, and global as we try to take in the enormity of loss that is amongst us. We also gather as unarmed Black and brown men continue to be killed by police. In just the past few weeks, I invite us to say their names. Rodney Applewhite, Casey Goodson Jr., Joshua Feast. And so many more that remain unnamed. Among us here, there is economic challenge. There is loss of loved ones and fear for those who will go without a home, people we love. There is the loss and grief that can accompany these holidays in the best of years. In the midst of all of this, beloveds, let us root ourselves in what we have here, finding ways to be thankful and to give thanks for the blessings that already surround us. Breath, really, starting with breath, the very gift of life. A winter's day, the birds at our window, a warm meal, each other in this Zoom room. Look around. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are enough. Know that this too shall pass. May it be so.
On Friday, September 27th, 1985, my 11-year-old body sat warm and dry, yet tremulous, in our Long Island, New York den. My family was playing a board game on a living room coffee table while Hurricane Gloria raged outside. Sheets of rain and 145-mile-per-hour winds pounded against our walls. This was a big deal. Gloria was the first hurricane to make it to Long Island in over 25 years. My back was to the sliding glass door that opened to the backyard. My dad went upstairs with my sister to check on the tea, and Mom and I were downstairs chatting. Suddenly, Mom's eyes widened and she shrank backwards with fear. Immediately, I felt a powerful impact that shook the ground underneath me. I turned around and saw that one of our 70-foot oak trees had crashed down, its upper branches just scraping the walls and the sliding glass door of our house. We anxiously sat out the rest of the hurricane with a clearer idea of just what this world could do to us. Afterward, when the storm had moved on and we could go outside to talk to neighbors and observe the destructive force of nature unleashed, we were in awe. Fallen trees knocked overhead lines down, leaving millions without power and phone for over a week. The trunks crisscrossed roads, making travel impossible. Debris from plants and houses littered the community. School was canceled for a week, and it was glorious. That week, chainsaws buzzed incessantly, and trucks hauled away loads of earthy-smelling logs. Oblivious to the destruction, devastation, cost, and worry the adults were dealing with, my friends and I rode our bikes all around. Kings of the carless roads. We stopped where and when we wanted, climbed all over the massive fallen trees, and when we were tired, we went home and ate dinner by candlelight. After the cleanup and the power came back on, the neighborhood felt different. It felt refreshed. The sun came down in new places. We noticed things we hadn't seen before, talked to people we had no cause for beforehand. We saw our neighborhood, our home, with new eyes. This experience deeply influenced my understanding of today's opening words, and especially the last two lines. We're going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together. To make this hurricane together. The wind and I, we collectively make this hurricane. Our anger and discontent and ferocity, we unleash it. And along with the winds of the day, the storm erupts, explodes, and takes on an uncontrollable, devastating energy, lashing out, scarring the landscape of the world, its people, its history, altering the future. Hurricane holds a tumultuous and cleansing place in my mind. Today's service is about keeping the faith during difficult times. These are certainly difficult times, times laden with grief. What have we lost this year? School, work, gatherings, travel, dinner with friends. We have lost loved ones and the ability to grieve together. George Floyd, hearing a grandchild unwrap their birthday present. Concerts, plays, and movies. Hugs. We have lost hugs. The storm is raging outside our walls, and trees are falling on us. My personal mantra for these times comes from Bruce Lee.
He says, be like water. Months ago, I was holding too tight. And for my sanity, I had to let go of all the things I couldn't control. So I try to be like water. And recently, I came across the writings of Charlotte Erickson, which seems a beautiful way to wrap this reflection up. During difficult times, she says that we take a shower, wash off the day, drink a glass of water, make the room dark, lie down and close your eyes. Notice the silence. Notice your heart. Still beating, still breathing, still fighting. You made it. After all, you made it. Another day. And you can make it one more. You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. I'm doing just fine.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Thank you, Ted and Emily. I'm a little hoarse from singing along with that beautiful song. Reflecting upon the pandemic, Pope Francis recently wrote, "A crisis reveals what is in our hearts. A crisis reveals what is in our hearts." He continues, "In lockdown, I've often gone in prayer for those who sought all means to save the lives of others. Whether or not they were conscious of it, their choice testified to a belief. that it is better to live a shorter life serving others than a longer one resisting that call. I found that so powerful. I never thought about our healthcare workers making that conscious choice. Well, not only our healthcare workers, our teachers, our essential workers, just making that conscious choice that it is better to live a shorter life serving others than a longer one resisting that call. There's a common covenant read in many UU congregations that contains these words in part. Love is the doctrine of this church, and service is its prayer. Are some of you familiar with those words from your connection with other congregations? They're also in the back of our hymnal. The words were first published by Unitarian minister William L. Griswold in 1933. So it's almost a century ago, and they speak so eloquently to the Unitarian theology of service. As a religious tradition, we use, that's Unitarians and the Universalists, we're the busy ones. We're the ones who are rooted in this world, hooked by all that needs to be done in the name of healing and justice. So it's not surprising that many Unitarian and Universalist congregations opened their doors and offered themselves in the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. Like today, there were some denominations that fought hard to keep their churches open for worship. The Unitarian churches in general, though, cooperated with public health mandates, and they often used the occasion to show support for science-based public policy, even while some other religious leaders were saying that the cause of that pandemic just might be God's displeasure with the growing support of science in these liberal religious circles. Amazing that we're still debating the validity of science 100 years later. So instead of gathering to look upward for support, the Unitarians in Santa Cruz, California, rolled up their sleeves and opened their sanctuary to be a temporary hospital. In Oakland, California, they removed pews to make room for beds in their sanctuary to accommodate a new clinic. The Unitarian Church in Rochester, New York, transformed their fellowship building, the Gannett House, into a convalescent home for those released from the hospital who could still not quite go home yet. The Red Cross offered supplies for that Gannett House project, but most of its workers were volunteers from the congregation in Rochester. There's even a legend that the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House in Provincetown, Massachusetts, is haunted by the ghosts of the people who died in the Spanish flu there, because they also opened their sanctuary to be a temporary hospital. Iowa City Unitarians made meals for exhausted healthcare workers, and the Women's Alliance made face masks for children, as well as educating and advocating for the wearing of them. Lowell, Massachusetts Universalists had an emergency kitchen. They gathered women from many churches to supply and deliver hearty soups and meals to whomever was in need. And in Worcester, Massachusetts, Universalists opened a home for children who were either permanently or temporarily orphaned by the pandemic. They offered food and shelter, homeschooling, recreation, and even tucked each child into bed individually. While I'm sure so many others also offered support to those who were ill, I'm going to admit to feeling pride and maybe even a little bit of humility as I learn this Unitarian and Universalist history. We stand on the shoulders of some incredible people who we will never be able to name, who were guided by their Unitarian and Universalist faith and courageously risked their lives on behalf of others. They were and are the breath that created the hurricane of cleansing change, life-saving change, again and again. Now, while the history tells us how they served during the pandemic of 1918, the history doesn't tell us what was happening in the hearts and minds of the members of these congregations that made these heroic decisions and then lived them out. While they didn't have the same Zoom fatigue we have, surely they were as worn out as we were, no? Surely they still had church board meetings and budgets to raise, children's religious education to worry about, and efforts to keep the community together while they were not gathering face to face. Surely these Unitarian families had to figure out homeschooling and how to pay the rent and put food on the table. And surely they felt the same disdain some of us may feel when we experience the impact of their rampant disregard for science in the face of a deadly violence. And they had a war raging during this time. World War I was happening and many were dying in the fields. How did they keep the faith through all of this? Breathe, said the wind. Breathe. I'm holding a little fear that telling the story of this history of our congregations, coupled with our own very service-oriented religious tradition, plays into a very human foible. A foible that actually our theology is constantly trying to remind us to break apart from us. And that is that history can falsely wrap our inherent worth into our accomplishments, into what we've done, without accounting for the inner journey, nor nesting our doings in the stirrings of our hearts. And those stirrings, my dear, can only be discovered when we allow ourselves some stillness, some time for the contemplative practices of a faith tradition. The powerful this world orientation and justice-seeking energy of Unitarianism over the ages can sometimes lead us to forget to breathe. So what if service wasn't our prayer, but service was service, valued in and of itself, and prayer was our prayer? They did pray in their congregations, recited prayers every week 100 years ago in Unitarian and especially Universalist congregation. Prayer not as in the direct asks to a transcendent being that chooses to bestow favor or not, but as in theologian Reinhold Niebuhr's understanding of prayer. Prayer does not change things. Prayer changes people, and people change things. Prayer is not hearing voices. Prayer is acquiring a voice. Incidentally, that's the same Reinhold Niebuhr who penned the Serenity Prayer that many of us are familiar with. I consider prayer as a form of listening, of connecting to my innermost self and the mystery beyond all mysteries. Now, if prayer is a challenging word for you, try discernment, meditation, or even stillness. Perhaps these words from Unitarian Universalist minister Barbara Peskin might resonate. In 1984, Reverend Barbara was the first out lesbian called to a UU congregation. The atheist prays, she writes. I am praying again, but how does one pray when unsure if anything hears? In the world I know as reliable and finite, when time and matter cycle back and forth, and I understand the answers to so many puzzles, there are moments when knowing is nothing. And I, this accumulation of systems, histories, repetitions falls from me. How does one who is sure there is nothing pray? I, dark gathered around my eyes, sit in this room cluttered with my certainties, asking my one unanswered question, holding myself perfectly still to listen, fixing my gaze just here, wondering. How is this crisis opening your heart? Have you been still enough to notice? Might a little more silent time staring out the window help you move beyond the oh so satisfying and sometimes addictive checklist of rote daily accomplishments? Or shift you off of the wobbly legs of certainty into a deeper discernment of what's needed now? Prior to seminary, I worked as a secular community organizer in San Francisco's Tenderloin District. That experience, which led to nasty infighting amongst the people who are trying to do good, which is otherwise known as burnout, taught me how important being deeply rooted in a faith community and contemplation is to the work of creating a more just and compassionate world. That's why we have come up with this inner depth and outer focus, this yin and yang that we are asking for in our faith community that's needed for effective right action. I was delighted last week when the congregation affirmed our racial justice focus and our initiatives on mental health, immigration, and climate justice. We are creating that hurricane of focused energy here that's needed for change. It took some congregational discernment to get us there, and I'm sure it will serve us well. Let us remember to breathe, to look for those opportunities that are available for us to be of service in crisis, but to know that service anchored in faithful contemplative practices, cultivated as a community and as individuals, will enable us to make it through another day together and bring more compassion and more justice into the world. May it be so.
As is our tradition, the full plate from the service today will be given to the Emergency Family Assistance Association. EFA is the community safety net for families who cannot meet their basic needs in Boulder County area. EFA provides traditional, transitional, and short-term housing, food, rent, and medical expenses for the people they provide care for, including families, seniors, and people with disabilities. This need for assistance is critical this year, as the pandemic has placed many people in difficult financial situations. Our fellowship, for many years, has generously donated handmade and purchased mittens, hats, and gloves for our annual festive mitten tree, which I'm sure a lot of you remember. We donate all of these to EFA. However, since the need for basic food sustenance is growing substantially this year, we are instead collecting food for EFA's pantry. We hope that you will stop by BVUUF's actual building, remember that one, so far away in Lafayette, anytime from today through Friday, December 18th, and place your donations near the holiday tree on the front sidewalk. Wendy Highsmith and Lisa Kahn have created an outside display for us. Thank you so much, Lisa and Wendy. Lisa will pick up the donations each day and deliver them to EFA. Basic food items such as canned protein and fruit are needed, as well as essentials like toothpaste and paper towels. A list of their most needed items can be seen on EFA's website, which is now going into the chat. Thank you for continuing to support EFA as it empowers families in crisis to thrive. After you've made your offering, you can answer this question in the chat. How do you keep the faith during difficult times? For the work of this fellowship, bringing love, reason, compassion and justice to this world, and to the Emergency Family Assistance Association, we dedicate our offerings.
And now we sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Before I introduce the closing song, I just wanted to thank everyone for sharing their words in the chat about how they keep the faith during difficult times. It's so much more than a recipe for getting by, as opposed to keeping our spiritual practices and principles rooted within ourselves. It's beautiful to see the community's thoughts. Thank you. Today's closing song comes from the Broadway musical Avenue Q. Perhaps some of you have gotten the chance to see it. This laugh out loud musical is told by human actors and puppets. It shares a story, the timeless story, of a recent college grad named Princeton. Princeton moves into a shabby New York apartment all the way in the outer borough on Avenue Q. He soon discovers that although the residents seem nice, it's clear that this neighborhood is a little queer. Together, Princeton and his newfound friends struggle to find jobs, dates, and their ever elusive purpose in life. After song numbers like, "What do you do with a BA in English?" and "If you were gay, that's okay." And of course, "I'm not wearing underwear today." Princeton and the crew realize that today's troubles are only for now. Additionally, BVUUF has made a donation of $50 to the Actors Fund, which supports actors through this difficult time of prolonged theater closure. You are invited to support this fund as you are willing and able. The link is in the chat now. I invite you to please enjoy this cast reunion rendition of Avenue Q's For Now.
Everyone's a little bit unsatisfied.
Everyone goes around a little empty inside.
Take a breath, look around.
Swallow your pride.
For now.
Nothing lasts.
Life goes on, full of surprises.
You'll be faced with problems of all shapes and sizes.
You're going to have to make a few compromises for now.
For now.
But only for now. Only for now.
Only for now.
Only for now. For now we're healthy.
For now we're employed.
For now we're happy. If
Stay safe. Love you.
Let us extinguish our chalice on that beautiful note, that beautiful reminder that it really is only for now and that we have each other and we'll get through this. Let us extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts, and we bless the world with them until we meet again. Beloved,
Lydia.
let us go forth, ready to serve and ready to be anchored in what we need to continue for now. Blessed be.